I want to tell you 6 lessons I've learned for my first 6 months as a full-time freelancer. I want to treat this like a diary entry to myself to sort of reflect on the things that I've already learned and hopefully share a bit with you as well. If you're new here, hello, my name is Michael. I'm a full-time sports creative in Australia, and together with my twin brother Darren, we run a content production business called 2x Creative. I'm going to start this video with the biggest lesson that I have learned. So lesson 1 that affects me borderline every day is to not compare myself to others. If you've heard of the saying comparison is the thief of joy, that could not resonate more closely with me. And I found that it literally affects my confidence week in, week out based around this. It's totally what works for me, but I found the less I consume of other people's work, the more I feel better about what I'm doing. And I think that just goes to show that as I said, it's what works for each individual. But for me, not comparing myself to others around the world and others in Australia, that just helps me so much more week to week. In fact, if I do too much of it, it's honestly the thing that drains my energy the most. So it's all about finding the things that, I guess, give you energy and the things that drain your energy. And for me, comparison is a massive one. I sort of relate this to doom scrolling. So the more I do of it, the more I compare and the worse I feel, I guess. Saying that though, if you do get inspiration from consuming other people's content, then great, lean into that. That's unreal. I think it's different for everyone, and if you do find that helps you, then lean into that and do as much of it as what works for you. It's just worth touching on that everybody's different, and as I said before, find what energizes you and find what drains you. Lesson 2, don't pretend to know what you don't know. Again, perhaps in the order of priority. This is massive for me, and I think it relates to everything. Don't run a business if you don't know how to run a business. Don't make a wedding video if you don't know how to make a wedding video. And that's not to say that don't say yes to jobs you haven't done before, like a wedding shoot, but be totally transparent and upfront that you haven't done one before. It's not your area that you've had much experience in, because this will help you or help the client, and it's gonna only make things smoother for you. So I think just be totally aware of your skill set, and being aware of your weaknesses, so to speak, or the things that you aren't an expert in is perhaps your biggest strength. And that's something I've already found in the first 6 months that has helped me greatly. Lesson 3, don't take social media too seriously. In fact, don't take it seriously at all to a point. And I say that because if you're committing to build a brand from the ground up, it's playing the long game. It's not gonna happen overnight, and you can't live and die by these numbers, the views, the comments on the things you're posting. Sure, let it guide you as to what works and what doesn't work, but play the long game. I always come back to playing the long game myself, because the social media world it's not worth putting that or living and dying by it. It's honestly not that serious, and people don't care what you're posting. They don't care. I hate to say it to you, but it's actually a positive. Nobody cares what you're posting, so do you post what you want to post, put yourself out there, and again, play the long game, because that's what's going to help in the future once you start to build whatever you're trying to build. Lesson 4, a big one, don't downplay the importance of equipment. I'm sure you've all heard that equipment doesn't matter. That saying, people say it all the time, equipment doesn't matter. Well, it does, to a degree. I've found myself in these first 6 months operating under my own business that since I've upgraded some equipment, I've noticed a considerable, I guess, lift in confidence when I'm out on shoots. Because you're a professional creative, you're a professional videographer or photographer, whatever you are, you want to feel like one. So you can't tell me that having the right equipment or better equipment doesn't help you perform at your best. I know the skills are the same, but it absolutely does help. So that's helped me to sort of understand that equipment does matter. So invest back in yourself, buy that new lens, buy whatever it is that you need to give yourself that added bit of confidence. It's your equipment, right? Like, I think about other industries. If you're an athlete, you're a footy player or a basketball player, it's the shoes you wear. For example, you can't tell me that the better boots that you wear doesn't make an impact on your performance. I think it does relate in a weird, different sort of way, but it is a factor. So I think don't downplay that. Lesson number 5 I've learned, be your biggest cheerleader. I'm sorry to say, but if you don't love what you're doing or love yourself, who else will? Who else is gonna love what you're actually putting out there and whatever service you're providing? You've got to celebrate yourself, get comfortable with how much you're gonna talk about yourself, and sort of as I said, be your biggest cheerleader. How much you're gonna pump yourself up. If you believe in something, then act like it. I think put yourself in client shoes, right? If you're gonna purchase something or invest in something, if there's not a considerable amount of self-promotion or an online presence celebrating what that actual service is, then are you going to consider buying it? Probably not. You've got to talk about how good it is because it makes a difference. It's a weird crossover of like getting over yourself by putting yourself out there more and celebrating yourself. So you're not that important to keep pushing yourself. You've got to move past how important you are in terms of, if you just keep flooding people's timelines and celebrating yourself and what you're trying to do, that is the best possible thing you can do, and nobody actually cares that much except for yourself, because you're the one creating the content day to day. So celebrate yourself. As I said, if you believe in what you're doing, then act like it. And finally, lesson 6, the final lesson I've learned in the 6 months of freelancing full-time is to put your ego aside. This sort of continues on from the past one in a different sort of way, but it's so challenging to do, but you've got to put your own thoughts aside sometimes, or what you think you know, your ego telling you what you think you know, and whether that might be you know better than what someone else is telling you. But in this industry, everything's changing, so you've got to adapt or die, basically. You've got to adapt and be open to learn new things, and not just being so stuck on how you've always done something, or the fact that you think you know there's a better way to do this, because sometimes you just don't. And knowing that you don't is the best possible thing for the video you're producing, whatever you're doing. It's the best possible thing for yourself if you're aware that you don't know, or you have to do something that you haven't done before, or a certain way you haven't done it before. One example I think that's so relevant in the content industry now is the unpolished content, the unpolished videos that perform a lot better than a cinematic video, for example. Everybody's filming on iPhones and it seems to work. It's what's working for brands and businesses all over the world, by having that raw, unpolished content that people can relate to. If you're a filmmaker by trade, you love the cinematic style, you love using your $10,000 camera to film everything. If you're working with a client that you've identified that iPhone footage or the raw, unpolished product is what's gonna work best, then do that. Put what you are used to doing aside and do what's best for the client or the purpose. It comes back to a purpose. So what are you trying to achieve? If you're trying to do something that requires an iPhone and that's going to achieve the result better, then do that. That's just one relevant example I thought of right now. Probably more relevant to a client shoot. I'm big on, if you're doing your own thing for your own enjoyment, then don't just follow trends for the sake of following trends. I think continuing to do what you love doing is the most important thing. I hope you got something out of those 6 lessons. I certainly did, because I live them. But if you enjoyed this video, then hit that subscribe button to get more videos like it.